This is my recap of The Little Couple, Season 6, Episode 2, The Unexpected, and this is an hour-long episode. So we open up in Mumbai, their second day with Zoey, and they're going to have to fly to New Delhi in order to finish up the adoption process, get her medical exam, and visa. Now they're concerned about the flight because no one wants to be on a flight with a crying toddler, but it turns out Zoey just does great. So what we know about Zoey so far is that she does great on airplanes, she hates change, and she has a cry that sort of cuts through everything. So we figured out that Zoey is in fact my soul sister because those are all things I can relate to. And it does seem that Zoey and Will are both wonderful children who have a tendency to have kind of strengths and weaknesses that balance each other out. So where Will gets airsick, Zoey does great. So we're starting to learn more about the two children. And at this point, Jen still has some abdominal pains. And they haven't at this point been real clear as to what is going on. Now, the day of Zoey's medical exam, Jen just says that she just can't go. She's having to run to the bathroom every few minutes. And it just doesn't seem like it makes any sense for her to go along on this trip. Which is tough because, of course, Jen's a doctor and she wants to go to the medical exam. But they decide that Will stay back at the hotel with the nanny and Jen will stay there as well and rest. And Bill's going to go with Zoey and take care of all this. And in this scene, you can see Jen's face, and it's really clear in her eyes that she's not feeling well. You know how when someone's really sick, they just have this look in their face that indicates to you that they're tired, they're not doing well. And Jen she looks ill. Now, it's a really sweet scene with Bill where he's talking to Zoey and he's kind of trying to comfort her and explain to her that he's a good guy. And it's a really sweet scene to see him just be so passionate about fatherhood. And I don't think we see enough of that on TV, of men being passionate about being a father. So that was really cool to see. And Zoey does great at her medical. So she stands up, sits down, does everything that they need her to do. She also gets a shot in her arm, and in 48 hours she'll go back and they'll examine it, and it's to see if she has TB. So if she has any irritation or anything, that means that she'll need to stay in India for a few months and get treatment for TB. So it's kind of a big deal, and we're just waiting for that timer to kind of come up. Now they go back to the hotel, and Jen has to sit down with Bill and explain that she's a lot sicker than she thought. She thought she just had a case of deli belly, just some intestinal trouble caused by an unfamiliarity with like the food and the water. But she kind of, for the first time we really hear what's going on, which is in addition to her intestinal problems and her abdominal pain, she's having a severe amount of menstrual bleeding. And she talked to her doctor back home, and the amount of blood that she's lost would be concern for a woman of average stature. So it's even a bigger issue for Jen. And her doctor is saying that she probably needs to come home and go to a hospital and find out what it is. And Jen, of course, doesn't want to go because she wants to stay with her family. But at the same time, who wants to be sick in a country all the way across the world, and you don't have, it's not the healthcare system you're familiar with, the doctors aren't familiar with you. What if she gets stuck there? So after some really tense kind of conversation, they decide that really there's no other option. Jen has to leave. Now they do discuss the option of Will going home with her, so that Bill has just one child to manage. But it's quickly, Bill says no way. He's got the nanny, he can handle the two children. She's really sick. She should go home and find out what that is, and she shouldn't be trying to kind of parent a child while she's so sick that she has to leave the country. So they arrange for her to fly home, and her parents pick her up, and that's pretty much, we know that she gets home safely, but that's about it for this episode. So originally they were planning on staying much longer. I imagine doing a lot of the stuff that they did when they picked up Will. But instead, the only, option right now is to, streamline everything and get home as soon as possible to find out what's going on with Jen. So we see some really sweet scenes of, Will waving at the traffic and all the people and talking to the elephant and all these, neat little scenes. But the biggest thing is just that they go back and they find out that Zoey does not have TB and she is safe to travel. And so that's where they leave off the episode. Everyone's going to go home and we're going to find out what is wrong with Jen. So it's going to be an emotional season. And I will see you guys next week.